Welcome back. No intro. We are going to get right into it. Step one is a longer step, and it consists of education and research. One at a time, though, we are going to focus on the first one, education. Education can actually be broken down into two steps as well. The first step being in-classroom education, and then the second step being boots on the ground approach. So a little caveat before starting your Glamp business, I would watch all of these videos through. That's going to be like a 9-10 part series on how to start a glamping business. I would suggest watching all of them through before you start spending any money and before you start spending a ton of time on this, just to solidify that this is what you actually want to do. In addition, you will know all of the steps so that when you're at each step, you can refer back to the video. But I do suggest watching this all the way through, the whole series, and then when you're at each step, start with that step. So that first step is in-classroom education. What does in-classroom education mean? It's basically you watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, reading books. It's all the stuff you can do while you're sitting on the couch, while you're working your W-2, while you are laying in bed at night. All the things that you can do that are not actually at a glamp site. It's the education part of just consuming glamping content. You are going to want to spend minimally at least a week of consuming as much glamping content as possible before you spend any money or decide that this is what you want to do. Spend a week consuming as much content as you can to solidify that this is a passion and that this is a business that you actually want to partake in. Because again, it is not hard, but it is a lot. There's a lot of work to do, but not only from a creative aspect, but also from an admin standpoint and running finances. You basically, when you're starting this, are going to have to wear all of the hats. You're going to have to do all of the jobs. So make sure that this is actually something you want to do. So from a personal standpoint, I can tell you that I watched content every single night for at least 2 weeks before I decided to do a glamp spot, because I wanted to know that this is something I wanted to do for the next 5, 10, 15 years of my life. I wasn't just going to jump in feet first, even though jumping in feet first is something I do, and I'm learning to take my time more with things. But I do suggest spending minimally a week every single night learning about this and engulfing yourself in the content of glamping. So where to start with your in-class education? I think watching this video is a really good place to start, but there are also some other YouTubes you can watch. I know Rob Built has some great content regarding glamping. Kai Andrews on YouTube also has some great content regarding glamping. There are some great episodes on Bigger Pockets that have some great glamping episodes. Podcasts, I know there are a couple podcasts that are out there about glamping, but really just start with your education. So great, after a week or two of consuming as much glamping information as possible, next is the hands-on education. This is probably the most vital part of the education process, is really just staying at a glamping site. Why is this the most vital? Is because you need to make sure that you can even live this lifestyle. I know that I'm in a home right now and I'm not living off grid and glamping full time, but I do spend 3 or 4 days every single month out in Arizona at my glamp site because I need to continue to make sure that it's improving. So the biggest part with this first step of hands-on education is knowing that you even like it. Again, the week or two of the in-classroom education and then the visit of a glamp site is really solidifying that this is something that you want to do and that this is something that you can go all in for, because this is going to be the next 2, 5, 10 years of your life. So make sure that you enjoy what you're doing. I guess that's like the biggest thing. Okay, great. So once you've started the education part, and just be aware that this education doesn't start and stop within a couple weeks. I'm constantly being educated in the space, constantly learning. You always got to be a student. Be a student of the game. Be a student of the game. That's what makes successful people successful, when they keep on learning, when they keep on educating themselves. So the education part doesn't stop. But after that week or two of the in-classroom education, and then you stay at a glamp site and know that this is something that you want to double down with and really commit to. Next comes step 2 of this phase, which is the research part. Before I get into the research part, please like and subscribe this video. We are trying to build a little community of glamp business owners over here. So please like and subscribe and share on socials. So when I say research, I would start with writing out your ideal scene, writing out what you want your glamp site to look like and how you want it to operate. I would literally draw a little piece of land and say, okay, I want an Airstream there. I want a tiny home there. I want to do a little yurt there. And I would start drawing out what you want. Let's say you want to just do Airstreams. Let's say you want to just do yurts. You want to just do tiny homes. I would start making a list and say, look, I want to do an Airstream. I want to do a tiny home. I want to do 3 yurts. When you're learning about this stuff, really start visualizing what you want so that you can start thinking with budgets, location, permitting, all the steps that you're going to need to do. You need to start somewhere. Now, again, understand that this is going to change. This is not your final draft. This is not what you're submitting to get permitted. This is strictly just an overview concept of what an ideal scene would look like in your eyes. And I'll tell you what, when I went to go visit, during the education part, when I went to go visit a glamp site, I had so many new bright ideas that I really liked by visiting other people's glamp sites. So that is such a key component of that education part when you go to travel to other glamp sites, is really getting inspired by other people's work, by other people's builds and creations of their aesthetic and land. And I think that education part can really feel like you're not accomplishing much, but I can promise you that by going to other glamp sites, you get inspired and you start really understanding of what you like. And at the end of the day, if you build something that you like, I guarantee other people will like it too. So when I say start gathering a picture of what you want, you got to think of location, where you want it to be. You got to think of units, what you want to have, Airstream, tiny homes, yurts, etc. You got to start thinking of how you want to do amenities. If you want to do utility trailers, which will house all of your utilities, or if you want to find land that has utilities and maybe land hack, this does not have to be your final vision. Things will change over time as you develop a budget and you realize a brand new Airstream is $80,000 and you're like, well, that's my entire budget. You'll start realizing what is affordable, what you want to do and what fits your aesthetic, but also what stays within your budget. So keep in mind that this is going to change and that's okay. This is just an overview and for you to start thinking of the future of the 6-month to 12-month goal so that we could start putting pen to paper. This is what I did. I literally took a piece of paper and started writing out things of what I wanted to do. And obviously it's going to change. And I've said that like 15 times already, but start putting pen to paper on an ideal scene. So next I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, golf.
Do you want to play some golf? Have a beer and just laugh about it. Take a mulligan and laugh about it. Have another beer and lose another club. If you miss a putt, you know I'll back you up and say these greens are horseshit. 'Cause golf is an easy game, it's just hard to play.
I hope you guys like that one. That was straight from GFY Productions. Solid song. Okay, so when you start doing your research, you want to look at location, units, amenities, permits, and a couple other things. So the first one is location. You can think of location a couple ways. I'm going to do a video on this that I talk about in depth, so I will just talk about this as an overview right now. I would choose a place that people are already going to, and that your place is just a stopping point within their trip. So what I would not do is choose Antarctica and expect people to book a trip to Antarctica to stay at your place. I would choose a city that people are already driving through or is their final destination and that they can stay at your place as part of their experience. The reason why I chose the Grand Canyon was because they have so many visitors a year. With the reoccurring demand of people wanting to visit the park, I will always have new people coming every single year. People will continuously, for the rest of time, be visiting there. People visited there before I was live. People will visit there after I'm dead. So I knew that this market was going to not only last, but people were going to continuously travel there every single year. And that is where I think a really good place to start location-wise. Next is land. When you do land, again, all of these are going to have their own separate videos, but you can buy, lease, or seller finance, or land hack, which is basically buying a tear down and being able to finance it through a bank because you can't finance land in general. So then you obviously have units, amenities, permits, etc. Permitting is going to dictate how many units you can have, what type of units you can have. I know the Grand Canyon, for example, just banned all canvas structure unit unless it's permitted commercially or a conditional use permit. And if it's a conditional use permit, it can only be open 180 days. So little things like that, you have to be aware of permitting as well. Again, watch all the videos before you spend $1. Create your ideal scene. Once you create your ideal scene, know that that's going to change and that is going to have to be malleable as you go through this process. So the next part of research and education is I want you to start your rough budget. I want you to start budgeting for this project and figuring out how much things are going to cost. Again, it's going to change, but I want you to start running your numbers immediately. First, you should have a rough budget you want to stick within. So without further ado, let's jump into this Excel sheet and I'm going to show you how to start working your numbers for your glamping business. So before I start, I am going to let you know that this Excel sheet is free to download. I will link it in the description. Go ahead, download it so that you can start working on your budgets. I'm going to fill this out based on my glamp site, which is started with just a 2-unit glamp site, which will be a 15-unit glamp site, but I started it off with 2 units. So first 2 units were $12,000 for the land. I ended up buying the land in cash for $6,000 per acre. There were separated parcels with 2 different APN numbers so that I could have 2 different units on the parcel. However, they were conjoining acres. The next is we're going to do units. The first unit I bought was about $12,000. I did a video on that. You can go ahead and check out the first Airstream I bought. And then landscaping I did about $5,000 worth of landscaping. This consisted of a deck, pergola, outside seating, day bed, and building out kind of like a driveway. Next was water, septic, power, and miscellaneous. I have a property manager that I pay 25% to, which is high in some degree, but also not high in some degree. He provided water, septic, and power for me. So that's all zero. Miscellaneous, I put $3,000. This is your setup cost. This is buying furniture, etc. I actually am going to change this to $20,000 because after renovations, I think it was $25,000. Let's put $25,000 just for fun. $45,000 all in. And next is doing your nightly rate. So to figure out your nightly rate, you're going to want to hop into AirDNA. You're going to want to type in the Grand Canyon. So let's hop right into AirDNA. We're going to do Grand Canyon. I'm actually going to do Williams because that's where I am. Williams, Arizona. Great. Williams, Arizona. There are 554 active rentals. Occupancy rate goes from a 61 to a 73. I operated at 95 actually. However, let's do average occupancy rate. Let's be conservative and do 70% because even though I was at 90%, 70%, we can even do 65 because that would be average here. 65%. Nightly average is 188. Now, excuse my language, there's shitty rentals. There's shitty rentals in this area. And I knew, even though it was 554 rentals, I knew that my rentals could outperform a ton of them. I knew that I could be in the 1 percentile of this area just because your boy is creative. Just because your boy is creative in aesthetics. This is what I'm talking about is make sure that you partner with someone who's creative. Make sure you partner with a good designer or who can design your spot really well. So let's jump back into this. 188 at 65. Cleaning fee is about $1,100. I spend $1,100 on cleaning fee. All right. So property tax, you can find this on Zillow for my land. So actually, let's just jump into this. Let's see how far we can go. I'm going to just do this live with you guys right now. Watch this. Actually, no, we're going to do Williams. Let's see what Grand Canyon does.
We're going to do Grand Canyon. AZ. We're going to go home type, deselect, lots of land, remove boundary. So here's one thing.
When I first came here, I was like, I want to get one right over here. And this land is so cheap. It's $55,000 for 10 acres. And I was like, boom, So cheap, let's do that. And then you go over there, you meet some people that have Airbnbs, and you realize that you can only do 1 unit per parcel when it's zoned agricultural and residential for an Airbnb. So even if you had 10 acres, you could only do 1 unit on it. And so these are the little things that you have to know when you want to start a glamp site. You have to know the ins and outs. So I would go to the location that you want to choose and meet other people in the space, because they will not only have the information you want to do, but they might be able to property manage or sell you some land or rent you land that you can just throw some units on their land. I'm going to tell you a story at the very end of this about how I started and how I got all my questions answered by my boy Chris out there, because I went there and I stayed in an Airbnb. So we left off with property tax. We're going to scroll down on Zillow and see that your property tax is $6 a month. So we're going to go here and do $6 a month. And then estimated insurance, home insurance is, then you're going to go to here and see it's $4 a month. So you're going to go there, $4 a month. There is no HOA. Yep, no HOA, NA, no HOA. And then water, electric, gas was provided by my property manager. So that is going to be a 0. Cleaning fees, mine's about $500 a month. So obviously you can see that I profit a little bit I profit like $500 off of my cleaning fees, because I do have to buy all the supplies. And so that $500 is able for me to buy supplies such as paper towels, toilet paper, etc. The next one is cable and internet. I do Starlink, shout out Elon. That's $110 a month. Repairs and maintenance, I leave at 5%. Management fee, as I said, was with Chris, was 25%, which gets me to here. The numbers are starting to work out. Okay, so next is financed amount. I bought the land in cash, so that's 0. Let's say I'm gonna try to make this up as well. Let's say I financed $5,000 of it, right? And I did it on a 2-year loan, $5,000 at a 3% interest rate. So the reason why I have land financing, some people are going to be like, well, you can't finance land. I know. All right, just stop yelling at me. The reason why I have this here is because this is for seller financing. If you choose to seller finance land, this tab is for you. So let's say my land was $17,000. I paid $12,000 of it in cash. I'm seller financing the other $5,000 over 2 years at a 3%. I just want to show you how financing would work in this. Let's say I throw the units, finance $5,000 of it on a credit card. Let's say 14% is a credit card for 1 year. And then landscaping, we're going to do 0. You got to put at least a 1 here. So 1, and then just do a 0 for financing. So then if you go to your financing expenses, you got your land for $215 a month. You got your unit financing, which is $449 a month. Total financing that you're doing is $664 a month, coming out to operating expenses being $1846. So your OpEx is basically before your mortgage, which is before all of your financing. If you do all this in cash, then obviously your total expenses and your OpEx is going to be the same. But if you finance any part of it, then your OpEx plus your financing part will make your total expenses. So then we have $2,500 as your total expenses per month, but at a 65% occupancy rate at $188 per night, you're looking at $4,816 in gross income. And you're looking at your net income being before you pay off your mortgage, quote unquote, but it's just financing. You're looking at $2,900. If you minus again your financing aspect, you go to $2,306.49. So you're cash flowing $2,300 a month for 1 unit, which is obviously a great cash flow, right? Your cap rate is 79.21%. And your cash on cash return is 61.51%. Now keep in mind, if you are not financing this and you're doing everything in cash, then your cash on cash return and your cap rate will be the same because you won't have that mortgage on there, right? Your number of months to pay back your investment is 19.5 months. So you're under 2 years in paying back your original investment, which is great, right? Below this, you have Unit 2. This is when it starts getting fun because you don't have the increasing expenses of land. Before I continue, I want to bake in the fact that miscellaneous will also include permitting. And I will get into some miscellaneous expenses later, but there are some other miscellaneous expenses that will be baked into here as well. So let's just make this up. Let's say $25,000 for the next unit, and let's say another $5,000 for landscaping. Let's say your average nightly rate is again $180, and let's say this time you're operating at a 70%, $1,100 as your cleaning fee that you're making from your guests. So again, Airbnb charges the guests a cleaning fee. So that is an additional income generating tool that you get to use as your cleaning fee, right? So estimated insurance, again, $6. Monthly utilities, I have a 0. Cleaning fee, we are looking at about $500. Cable internet, shout out Elon. Repairs maintenance, 5%. Another 25% to your property manager. This is 5%. That's more like what we're doing for our Airstream, which is awesome, right? We're cash flowing about $4,000, $4,600 a month. The returns are crazy. They get paid back in 6 months, which is pretty amazing. When you start doing this and start finding your niche and start finding what works, it becomes so addictive because you just want to do more. You just want to buy more. You start using other people's money to just expand as quickly as you can. I'm telling you, if you can live below your means and you can then reinvest all of your money back into your glamping business a year or two, and you are profiting minimally 6 figures, hopefully doing $250,000, $500,000 a year. I do not think that that's unreasonable year 1, year 2. So if you do like this, it is a great business to have, and we are just in the beginning. This is just the beginning of this space, this niche. 5-10 years, this is going to blow up. So if you can get in now, it is a perfect time to start a glamping business. All right, so I know that was a lot. I am winded, to be honest with you. That was probably one of the longest videos I've shot to date thus far. But we are going to get into the story of how I started my glamping business. And everything I've told you guys thus far is accurate and true, right? However, I didn't tell you about the time I visited, my trips to glamping businesses. So let's say the first one was Joshua Tree. I went with a friend of mine, this girl I was seeing at the time, and we stayed in this Airstream looking over Yucca Valley. And I can tell you what, the experience I had staying there was just magical. I went to an actual glamping site, a full 60-unit glamp site that had tiny homes, Airstreams, RV parking spots. It was absolutely incredible. It was called Stay Yonder, and that is what birthed my passion for glamping. So obviously you had that first experience, right? That got my intrigue, and I was like, wow, this is a cool experience. Then you had that trip to Stay Yonder, which just blew the expectations out of the water, which really made me want to be a part of this and grow my own site and do something similar to what they were doing, but with my own flavor, my own taste and aesthetic and vibe to it. However, it was another 2 years until I started my glamping business. After I stayed at Stay Yonder, I didn't go and start a glamping business. I'll tell you what, actually, it was November of 2021 when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Like, I feel like every other entrepreneur / real estate investor / investor in general reads this book and their life changes. And so I read the book and I was like, okay, I need to get some passive income, some real estate and some assets that are paying me every single month instead of my earned income, right? Glamping business is not passive income. We're just going to get that one out right away. Glamping is not passive income. It is a job. Unless you have a property manager that is doing everything and you pay a very large percentage to, glamping is not passive income. I was like, I want an asset that pays me every single month. I want an asset that I can park my money into and that is paying me. Subconsciously, I think that it reminded me of the experiences I had at Stay Yonder and in Yucca Valley that then triggered me being like, this is what I want to do. I've visited glamping sites before. I've gone glamping. I know that this is something that I not only have affinity for, but I can also pull off. That was kind of the turning point in November that I was like, I'm doubling down and I'm going to commit to this. That kind of brings us up to November/December of 2021. And this is what I did. I went to Arizona. I stayed in Rob's unit and I was going to wait out a cleaner so I could meet the person who owns the land, because I knew Rob was renting the land from someone. So I was just going to wait out the cleaner so that I could meet this magical person who owned the land. And so I'm hanging out there with a friend. We're drinking, having a good time. And this fellow Chris comes up. And Chris comes up and goes, do you want any more firewood? And I look over, just chilling. Got a huge fire going. And I go, no, I think we're good. But you want a beer? And he goes, why not? And I kid you not, we drank till about 4 a.m. and we just shot the shit, became boys. And that is the beginning of the education part, right? When I was talking about the hands-on education, that's where it all started, right? Because I was able to ask Chris, who was acting as my mentor and is still acting as my mentor, about how the permitting process works in Williams, how many units I could have, what is the best strategy in doing this. He was a mentor I could have in the area that was already doing what I wanted to do. Is once you choose the area you want to do, you're going to have to go there just to learn about the area, right? And I was able to find my property manager. I ended up buying my own land, but I could have rented some of his land and gave him a percentage, right? So I do think that going and visiting it as a hands-on experience is so vital, and you have to do that. Also, pro tip here, great way to meet potential cleaners. If you need cleaners, say another person's Airbnb, wait out the cleaners, introduce yourself, get their contact, and now you have cleaners that are already working in that area and that they can hop onto your rental, hop onto your Airbnb. Now, if you're going to hire that person, when you check in, make sure that the place was clean, because if it wasn't, then you're not going to be hiring your cleaner. So, pro tip, if you like the cleanliness when you check in, wait out the cleaners on checkout, so that you can finagle your way around that. That is not a word, finagle, but I kind of like it. So that is basically how I started. It started off with going to Yucca Valley and visiting Stay Yonder, and then that's what got my intrigue in glamping. Then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and knew that I need to start investing into assets and have my earned income by passive income and have my passive income pay for my lifestyle. Now, keep in mind, glamping is not passive. I'm going to reiterate that one more time. Glamping is not passive. And then once I did that, I went to Arizona. I doubled down. I knew I wanted to do Arizona, and I went to Arizona, booked a trip, stayed in a couple Airbnbs, and started meeting locals, asking questions, and being a student of the game. I'm still a student of the game. I'm still learning. I'm on the phone with the permitting Kelly. Kelly, my girl Kelly is dropping knowledge. She was planning and zoning, and she's the one helping me with my permits, and I'm still on the phone with her all the time. So I'm always a student of the game, never not a student of the game, always learning, always educating yourselves on best practices, the best automation softwares, the best pricing tools. Understanding that there is room to grow within yourself is a very key component that I've kept going throughout my business. I hope that is a good starting point for your glamping business. I know it was kind of still an overview, but I hope it gets the ball rolling on what you want to do. Next video is going to talk about location. This is going to be a video that showcases exactly how you should be choosing your location and knowing that it's going to be profitable. We're going to dive into AirDNA and crank out those numbers. We're going to go into this spreadsheet that I have again and make sure that these compound. But that is pretty much it for this video. Again, next video is location, and I'll see you there. Peace.